Hello, and welcome to another video. In this video, we're going over Defense Guardian, which is Immortal Juggernaut. I'm not taking the 50% increased damage on Crushing Blow. I'm taking the cooldown reduction in case I get an AoE game. As for AoE, it would be a lot better. And I already have decent understanding of single target rotation, but also at the same time, decent single target. So I'm not really losing out on much of anything. On top of that, there was a decent amount of heavy armor targets in queue, so that 50% damage increase is not that high on heavy armor targets. Start of this match is a little awkward because I thought more people would be over here, but ended up being like almost nobody at all. So it's just really weird. So I end up taking the shortcut here after we kill this guy to get to the other side. You can only do this if you're body type 1. If you're not body type 1, you cannot do this. So do keep that in mind. I do have a short video going over it. But generally, all you have to do is jump on the first thing and then make the second jump aimed at the wall. And you can slide right between the fence. And then when I get to the person that I'm actually guarding, there's actually people to fight. Fan slam spam and crushing blow, it just annihilates their entire team there, which is really nice, and having cooldown reduction on it, especially in those AoE situations. Let's say if they lived for a little bit longer, we would be able to melt them with no problem. Then as we get the door and we continue on, I pretty much am happy that this deception then decided to stop me. So if he did stop me, my enraged defense wouldn't have healed me. And then I would have to be forced to heal a little bit. If he was a little bit more patient, he probably could have opened on me when I was a lot lower health, and probably have a better chance of forcing me to use defensive at least. And I knew that he sped, away the opposite direction to survive. But I didn't want to go duel him, so I just continued on. Kind of playing objectively, I guess you could say. And we go back to hitting this guy just because he's light armor, and it's just going to be more damage for us and more pressure. Nobody wants a free casting man, the sorcerer. They are not fun to play against. And try to hit the Marauder, but there's only so much I can do. He's playing Carnage, and if he decided to hit me back, and I don't have a defensive up, or my defense chance from Ravage, he actually kind of hurts. So I'm not pulling too much attention from this person, and he was relatively using his defenses, which, obviously makes it a lot harder to hit a Marauder because they self out, and they can leap just as much as I do, except for they can have 2 leaps, and I can't have 2 leaps. Though I'm not gonna lie, double leap on Juggernaut would be kind of busted. Can already force push to reset, so not necessary. Ultimately, we go down here, and I'm completely fine with that, mostly because we just respawn right here. It's actually beneficial for us to die. Then we immediately get death branded. I do not like that, but there's nothing I can do about it. And if you guys are curious about the damage, like the opener, I do have a video guide on this class, and I also do have defensive management guide, but generally the thumb would be if you're running overwhelming offense, you can saber throw. You need a saber throw as your opener because it helps you build rage. This will put your rage at maximum in the opener, but also at the same time it will help with your overwhelming offense tactical stacks. So you'll get that 1 stack and some rage, and then you'll leap and then go to Aegis Assault, and then you will go into Ravage, Taunt, Combat Focus / Enrage. I don't know what they call it now, and then Crushing Blow. So the Republican names of that, I don't know the Aegis Assault one, but it's Guardian / Crushing Blow. Combat Focus, I think, is Enrage, and Taunt's Taunt. So it's pretty straightforward, and that would be your typical opener, just for burst. But generally after that, your sustained damage is obviously you're going to debuff on your slam or smash. This will give you a native 5% accuracy debuff on the players that get hit by your smash, so that's huge. And then you have defense chance gain on your Ravage, and then you also have a mini sonic barrier for your allies after you use Force Scream or Blade Storm. So that'll be very helpful overall. And then Aegis, if you're taking, as I recommended, the barrier on Aegis Assault, it's actually really good. It absorbs quite a lot of damage, and you can lower players' damage pretty well. It's not as good as Assassin's Deflection, but it's honestly pretty solid, and I would say pretty comparable. Do I like that it's so strong? Probably not, because it would add more utility to Assassin, and in lowering damage. So having a jug that's able to do that, and if you have 2 jug tanks and they both run it, there's a lot of damage that you can absorb rotationally, which is crazy. Because deflection is 2-minute cooldown. Anyway, the damage one is also pretty good, but I would highly recommend always taking the absorb, because it's not just for allies, it's for yourself too. In this video, I'm just taking the damage one just because I want to have more single turret damage, because I am giving up some single turret damage in favor of having some AoE damage too at the same time. However, if I knew I had a healer or somebody that could actually, protect, that is going to use this defense as well, I would be taking the absorb one, because one, it would increase my survivability, but it would also increase the team's survivability and obviously the person I was trying to protect. Aegis between like intercede and taunt, and even throw a guard in there on top of that, the player is going to do like no damage to the person that you're guarding. And even if you don't guard, they're still going to do way less damage to that target. So it's something to think about. And here we're just kind of like bullying the Madness player, mostly because, he's playing Death Brand. I don't like Death Brand, and he's light armor, so I want to kill him. I can definitely kill the healer too, but the healer is not doing enough HPS to actually warrant tunneling him over the damage. If you tunnel the damage that they do goes down, so therefore survival goes up, which is really important when you don't have a healer. So killing a damaged player that is pumping a lot of damage is much more important and useful for your team and yourself, especially as a tank, because you can lower their damage even further. Also, I don't know what this guy is doing. He's kind of like out of cover chasing, I guess. But going into round 2, a quick TLDR of your defensive management, which I do have a video covering all the classes, defensives. Highly recommend checking it out. I know every single commentary I've said that. The freaking video is 2 hours and 30 minutes long. It's a super long video, but it has every class like broken into bits, so you can skip to whatever class you want. And it has some general information explaining like, hey, how does this damage reduction work, or how does this defense chance work? Sorry, my dog is snooping around the room because he's barking, so I'll keep him in here. Generally, it's a good video. You don't have to watch all of it. Obviously, just skip to whatever class you play, or a class that you just don't know much about. You can kind of like learn how they're going to use their defenses and how it's good against XYZ. You can learn a lot from it. This game is all about knowledge and what you know, and it'll allow you to excel like a lot better. If I didn't know half the things I did, I would play so much worse, because I wouldn't know what I could and what I couldn't do. At AV8, you can greed. This 3v1, like for example, if I didn't know their damage profiles, I didn't know what I can and can't do, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I just did. I just used a seismic grenade to pull him out of stealth, because I knew that he was still there. And it's because he's been so predictable with his stealth for the entire match. I know that probably like goes off people's radar. You probably don't even see it. You're like, oh, I had no idea that you could do that. It's, pulling people out of stealth is not hard. Losing Sleeping Slash, for example, makes pulling out classes out of stealth a little bit harder. I could take it, but I don't think it's worth it. I'm taking the slow on Force Scream because the slow is just generally really nice to help my uptime. Though I usually take the Ravage route when I'm running the 50% increase crushing blow. And it also helps with your rage, which is nice. But since I'm taking this one more of AoE one, I want the AoE Force Scream staying at the AoE slow to force them to stay in a stack. I tell him I have about 20 MS, even though it's around 20 to 30, but generally that's just trying to respond to that guy because he's like not having the best of time, which just trying to assure him that I'm not lagging or something. Because I'm always curious. Sometimes I ask people like what their ping is, because I see them like desyncing all over, and they usually say 200 plus, which goes to my thoughts of the game is basing off of what they see and what you see, and not really like server side. So a lot of desync comes from people that are just actually lagging, which is super unfortunate, I would say. I wish it was server side, but I don't know. Don't know how they would do that. I don't know how that code works and stuff like that. So can't really comment. But it would be really cool if it was more so about server, but it's probably really hard to do. Overall, if we just kill this guy, this poor guy, he's not having a good time. He's like, all right, this guardian he won't stop killing me. I don't like this. He's just got to be less predictable with his stuff out, and he'll be fine. Going back into objective play, it's really the only thing to do, because their team is pretty much huddled up on it at all times. It is a little greedy for me to duel him, but they only have one other Sin, which is on the door right now. That can kind of like play objectives, because their third stealth is a healer, and he's not really contributing to it. We do get overwhelmed on the left side. I didn't realize that we were getting overwhelmed on the left side, otherwise I would have went over there sooner, but it's okay. It goes to show, paying a little bit more attention would be helpful. So, planning over there. I had no idea. Nobody called it out. Nobody said anything, so not really anything I could do. These guys are a little bit heavier armor, so I probably wouldn't have liked it too much to be over here, but that would have at least, protected the node for people. Or not the toad, but the door. Standing in the AoE for engineering actually increases your pooled hatred stacks. So I hit this guy really hard, but just because he's got that slow down. So whenever you see a lot of engineer players, immortal, just Juggernaut in general is like really good at dealing with them, because the slow will feed their pooled hatred, and they can just stand in it even if the AoE is not like deadly to them. So they can just kind of like cheese highest hits really easily with it. Also, in general, if you're keeping it on them, you're just going to amplify every single ability by 10 to 20 to 30% extra damage. So maybe don't put it down when there's a whole bunch of juggernauts, unless you're like in guard range and have like taunts and stuff, like stuff that are lowering their damage. So it can be very deadly, and you can kill yourself and your team a lot faster with spamming slows. This is why other slows that are in the game that only apply once are so good, because they only feed one pooled hatred at maximum. And in general, we're just kind of like fighting them off and trying to make sure that they don't get buff doors. I did want to go out a little bit sooner to protect the other door, but I was just hoping that my team would actually cover that door without me having to make sure that I go immediately for it. I wanted to slow people down and make sure that they couldn't all get in here. But generally, it's not the worst situation ever. These guys have a lot of good damage to basically tank tunnel, so I absolutely melted here. Not much I can do. This guy I don't know. I probably wouldn't use Force Push to finish me off, but to be fair, I got really close to killing him, so I kind of understand why he did it. You don't want to risk dying to me, which really could have happened. And again, just defending the door for the rest of the game. There's not much else to think about. But a quick TLDR of defensive management, by the way, if you guys are interested. If you're ever guarding somebody and then you're about to take a lot of elemental damage or like skill damage in general, like polarity shift, pyro PT, using your invincible, basically my mouse click button, that gives you flat damage reduction, and it's super good. It's the best defensive that you can use against mixed damage and damage that is actually very deadly to you. And it'll lower the damage of openers. Obviously, pair that with taunt. It'll take a lot less damage. You can even throw intercede on the person that you're guarding. That'll help your damage mitigation by a lot. And then if you have barrier on H's Assault, you can also throw that out. So that can just basically make any AoE opener or just opener in general a lot more neutered than what it normally would do. Sabo is more defense chance. You can use it whenever you're taking a lot of white damage or just don't have anything else to use, and then you have 2 healing defensives. And for the most part, those are self-explanatory. If you guys have any questions about defense or immortal, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to help.